You haven't contributed at all to the household finances and have shown no intent to support us. Leave this house immediately.
For a long time, I have dedicated myself to this family, making many sacrifices. However, my mother-in-law only believes and accepts what my sister-in-law says, seemingly ignoring all my words and efforts. I feel my energy to keep working for them is running out. Is that so? Understood. I will leave then, but please be aware that any regrets in the future are not my responsibility.
Regret? I haven't even thought about it. Truly, you are the person who shows no gratitude till the end.
Instead of talking about this, you'd better leave quickly.
They kept throwing harsh words at me till the last moment. I hurriedly packed only the essentials in my bag and left the scene. My name is Sarah. I will be turning 33 this year. I don't have any children and currently live with my in-laws in my late husband's family home, taking care of my ailing father-in-law. I had a loving marriage with my husband, Sam, 8 years ago. But, tragically, I lost him in a sudden accident 5 years ago. Temporarily, the sadness of losing a son from that accident had left my mother-in-law dispirited. Hence, I continued to live with my in-laws after my husband's demise, especially supporting my father-in-law who needed care. I had received a lot of help from my father-in-law in the past, so I willingly took on the task of caring for him. Actually, I am somewhat grateful to have a chance to return the favor to this family. However, on the other hand, the behaviors and attitudes of my mother-in-law and sister-in-law have been a major source of stress for me. It seems that my mother-in-law has had some sort of prejudice against me from the beginning. This was evident even when my husband was alive, as she would repeatedly try to trouble me in various ways. Particularly during the time we were worried about not having children, I was deeply hurt by her insensitive remarks. Once, my mother-in-law said,
"Why did he marry such an infertile woman? You're really useless."
These words clearly reached my ears, stabbing my heart each time. My husband and father-in-law tried many times to caution and restrain my mother-in-law, but her sarcastic and cold words hardly ceased. Moreover, making the situation harder was the existence of my sister-in-law, Karen. She lives very close to my mother-in-law's home but has not involved herself at all in domestic matters like caring for our father-in-law. One day, I asked my mother-in-law if Karen could also help with the care, and in response, I received a very harsh reply from her.
"I don't have to do any caregiving. That's your job."
Hearing those words, all I could do was sigh deeply. She must have been spoiled in this kind of environment for a long time. It was a moment that strongly made me feel so. Her character is clearly self-centered, with no signs of considering others' positions or feelings. While I'm getting caught up in daily caregiving tasks, she suddenly leaves her child with me and goes out for her own enjoyment. Furthermore, she takes home the meals I painstakingly prepared without asking. Her actions clearly prioritize her own desires and conveniences.
She resembles me in character. She's modest and quick-witted.
Saying that, she took pride in her character and actions, praising her every time. I had once attempted to caution her about her excessive actions.
You couldn't even bear a child. You're nothing but a freeloader. At least do something useful for the family.
Those cold words were hurled at me. Moreover, the two of them, mother-in-law and sister-in-law, began to criticize me in tandem. I painfully realized that communication with these two was difficult. And, since then, I've been careful not to express my opinions in front of them. They take no responsibility in the household, gallivant around, and seem to see my existence only as a labor force. Indeed, their bond seems to transcend the parent-child relationship. Nonetheless, the reason I don't leave this house is the irreplaceable memories with my husband, and the thought of not leaving my father-in-law to them. If I were to leave him to them, his situation might worsen. Such a choice is not an option for me. Despite such background, I continue to live with them. Amidst such daily life, suddenly one day, the sister-in-law visited the house. I thought she brought her child again, but it was different today. She seemed to be alone, and on her shoulder, there was a large bag that seemed to be for traveling. Seeing this bag, I inadvertently thought she was going somewhere on a trip.
I have something important to talk about. Can you call my mom here?
She said to me with a somewhat serious expression. Accepting her words, I guided her to our living room. I called the mother-in-law to the living room, and the three of us gathered around the living room table. As soon as we sat down, she uttered unexpected words.
Actually, I've been thinking about moving in here.
At her confession, I was astonished. To my knowledge, she was supposed to be living in a new apartment with her husband. I asked her why she had made such a decision. With tears in her eyes, she began to unveil the background. She said she had been repeatedly abused by her husband. She thought about fleeing with their child, but he forced her to leave the house alone. I had met her husband a few times in the past, but the man before my eyes always seemed gentlemanly. I couldn't imagine him resorting to violence towards her. In fact, from what I had witnessed, it was often she who unjustly yelled at her husband. I was bewildered on how to react to her words, but my mother-in-law immediately,
Karen, you should distance yourself from such a terrible man. Our home is always open to welcome you. She comforted and supported her with those words.
Facing the crying sister-in-law, I gently stroked her back to comfort her. However, beside us, my mother-in-law casually accepted the idea of living together without any discussion. Though familial emotions are involved, currently, there are no spare rooms in our house. The rooms are filled with caregiving supplies for my father-in-law, and numerous clothes and bags my mother-in-law collected due to her love for shopping. Lisa, I agree with living together with Karen, but there's no space left in the house. Where will she stay? At my question, my sister-in-law, who was crying just moments ago, looked at me with shining eyes. And then she made a proposal.
If that's the problem, wouldn't it be resolved if Sarah leaves this place?
Her sudden words left me speechless. Furthermore, my mother-in-law also seemed to fully support her opinion.
Sarah, there's some truth in what she's saying. From now on, Karen will start a new life in this house. Considering that, isn't it the best choice for you to move out?
Their unanimous opinion left me frozen, at a loss for words. Without any time to think about how to respond or how to handle this, my sister-in-law began to utter more astonishing words.
It's been quite a while since my brother passed away. Why is Sarah still staying in this house? Honestly, without my brother, I think the connection between us has already been severed.
She questioned me. Mother-in-law is nodding. She added,
Besides, Sarah, you seem to have been losing focus on your work lately. Just because you were married to Sam, we allowed you to stay here, but all you've been doing is eating, without really helping around. Honestly, I've been wanting you to find a new place for yourself.
Her words hit me hard. I was the one who supported the mother-in-law through the grief of losing her son. Not to mention, I had been taking care of my father-in-law through his illnesses. It pained me that they could say such things to me despite all my efforts. I've been handling much of the household chores and taking care of my father-in-law. Who do you think you are to say such things to me? I retorted, emotionally. Mother-in-law dismissed my anger as childish petulance, smiled patronizingly, and said,
Oh dear, but living here without contributing work-wise, I believe it's natural for you to at least help around. Claiming credit for that like you're doing some big favor, I just can't see that.
Sister-in-law continued,
Sarah, you haven't been doing much ever since you got married, it seems. Maybe you don't understand normal societal rules or common sense.
They both continued to undermine my efforts as if they had no value, belittling every endeavor I had put in.
Actually, the allowance you give me every month, it's only $500.
The $500 was the allowance amount I had been giving to my mother-in-law. Initially, it was $300, but upon her complaints,
This little amount just isn't enough. Are you enjoying seeing me struggle financially?
I increased it to $500. Despite me covering all household expenses, including the food and the costs for caring for my father-in-law, she was continually dissatisfied, being able to use that $500 however she pleased. Lisa, I believe the $500 I give you every month is quite a generous amount. Can you please tell me exactly how you've been spending it?
I told you, $500 is far from enough for me. It vanishes quickly with a little shopping or enjoying meals out.
Wait, Mom. What Sarah is doing to us, isn't this sort of like bullying the mother-in-law? I'm getting a bit scared. Is it safe to live with such a person?
At the stepsister's anxious words, the expression on the mother-in-law's face shifted to one of surprise and realization, her eyes now filled with suspicion as they turned towards me.
Indeed, that might be the case. Maybe Sarah is bullying me.
No, I would never do that. I've never even thought of bullying you.
Just quiet down. Complaining about not having enough money without working, and making things hard for me. There's no place for you in this home.
For a long time, I sacrificed myself for my in-laws. Yet, the mother-in-law took the stepsister's words at face value, not understanding my feelings or efforts at all. I had never thought that my efforts and contributions in this home would be negated in this manner. Understood. In that case, I will leave this place. Please do not blame me for making this choice later.
There's nothing for us to regret. Even after getting married, you forget to be grateful until the end.
Making excuses like a loser, it's just like you, Sarah.
Their words cut deep, stinging me to the last moment. I hurriedly packed only what I thought necessary into a bag, firming up my resolve to leave that house. Afterward, I stayed at a nearby business hotel. I was concerned about my father-in-law's well-being, so I quickly made arrangements for a new place and carried out various procedures related to the relocation. Most of the procedures were completed a few days before the movers arrived. I remembered the messy state of the room when I left the house and felt a bit embarrassed to have the movers see it in that state. So, I decided to return to my in-laws' house once more to sort out the belongings. Of course, I didn't expect a warm welcome from my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, but I thought they would understand if I explained it was for moving preparations. Also, I was worried about my father-in-law's recent condition. With mixed feelings, I hurried back to my in-laws' home. Upon arrival, I rang the doorbell and the mother-in-law opened the door.
What brings you here? Especially after what you said before you left.
The moment she saw me, a look of displeasure crossed her face. However, when I explained that I was coming back for the moving preparations, she suppressed her feelings and let me in. The in-laws' home, which I stepped into again, had become messier than I had imagined. There was litter and unwashed laundry scattered in every corner, and an obvious smell suggesting hygiene issues pervaded the house. It was clear that no one had been tending to household chores since I left. With a feeling of unease, I hurried to my father-in-law's room to check on him. Gently opening the door, I found him lying on the bed, looking exhausted. "George, are you feeling all right?" At the sound of my voice, my father-in-law slowly opened his eyes in surprise.
Sarah.
As he confirmed my presence, tears flowed from his eyes, and he bowed his head deeply, full of heartfelt apologies.
I am sorry. My inadequacy led to such a chaotic situation.
"George, please don't blame yourself. I too feel terribly sorry for leaving home abruptly." My father-in-law tried to hold back his tears with a trembling voice, but he couldn't. Although the emotional exchange continued, I had to discuss arrangements and didn't have much time to talk slowly. "I have decided to move away from this house. I cannot continue living here anymore."
I see. In fact, I have heard something similar from those two as well.
"So, George, how about starting a new life together? I cannot imagine you living healthily with those two. I am worried about the future of this house after I leave." Upon hearing my suggestion, my father-in-law momentarily looked surprised, but soon, his expression warmed up into a smile.
I truly appreciate your sentiments. However, it's a bit difficult. I can't burden you any more in your life.
But I don't feel burdened at all.
I know. You're genuinely kind-hearted, Sarah. That's why I want to avoid burdening you further. You should enjoy your life to the fullest.
My eyes welled up with tears at his deeply affectionate and caring words, warming my heart. I could feel that the kindness and caring nature of my husband was greatly influenced by my father-in-law. Although I was lost for words, I couldn't hold back my tears.
Moreover, I have been contemplating some things.
Then, my father-in-law started to elaborate on his plans and thoughts in detail. Initially, I was surprised, but as I deeply empathized with his thoughts, I assured him of my full support. "George, please allow me to help with anything, no matter how trivial." A gentle smile surfaced on my father-in-law's face.
I really appreciate it, Sarah. Hearing you say that gives me a lot of strength.
Expressing his gratitude, he nodded deeply, then gazed into the distance. Finally, the moving day arrived. On a bright morning, a moving truck parked in front of my in-laws' house, and the staff began unloading efficiently. Since I had organized everything in advance, the process went smoothly without any awkward or embarrassing moments. I felt a bit relieved amidst the bustling activity. However, the words of my mother-in-law and sister-in-law started to seep into the crevices of my heart.
Finally, the one who always acted selfishly without considering us is leaving.
Exactly. It feels like our hardships are finally paying off. Now, we can have some peaceful family time.
Despite feeling irritated by their words, this marks the end of my involvement with this family. With that thought, no matter what they said, it didn't reach my heart. Leaving their presence behind, I continued focusing on moving. After a lull in the moving activities, thank you for everything. I am starting a new chapter in my life, so I'll take my leave now. Saying that, I expressed my heartfelt gratitude. Then I hurried towards my new living place. Along the way, I heard some noisy chatter from behind, but my head was filled with anticipation and excitement for my new life, making those voices fade away quickly. After a few days, I returned to my in-laws' place to pick up the remaining items. As I approached the house, coincidentally, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were stepping outside.
What are you doing here? You are no longer part of this family.
Did he get kicked out and come back crawling? Too bad, there's no place for you here anymore.
Their words were as harsh as ever, and I responded with a bitter smile. Same as ever, unchanged. Despite their aggressive attitude, I took a deep breath and closed my eyes for a moment. During our exchange, a luxurious car parked in front of the house, and a man in a suit stepped out. They narrowed their eyes at the man with suspicion.
I apologize for the wait. I am here to appraise the house for sale. I need your cooperation today.
I'm sorry for the delay, and thank you in advance for your cooperation. They seemed to be shocked as they grasped the meaning of the words, their faces turning pale. As I moved to enter the house, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law hurriedly blocked my path, wearing panicked expressions.
Wait a minute. Why are you appraising the house without our consent?
Exactly. Who gave you permission to do this?
They glared at me with fiery eyes, questioning every word with heightened emotion. Their ignorance was astonishing, and I couldn't help but smile. Seeing my reaction, they approached me aggressively, with an even more displeased look. However, undeterred by their attitude, I decided to calmly clarify the situation to them. I'm not sure what permission you are talking about, but I have the right to sell this house.
What are you talking about? Don't you know the basics? You absolutely need the permission of the title holder to sell a house.
The title holder of this house refers to Sarah here.
At the real estate appraiser's words, the mother-in-law and sister-in-law were astonished, also looking at the two of them with a bit of surprise due to their reaction. This house was originally built by the father-in-law. However, when the father-in-law became ill and couldn't work, making loan repayments became difficult. At that time, my husband, who was employed, took over the loan and received this house from his father. After my husband passed away, I took over the title and ownership of the house and maintained it. Became financially difficult for my mother-in-law. I understand if you didn't know, but didn't you know the actual circumstances, Lisa?
I always thought that the title of this house was still under my husband's name. I was mistaken.
Since Dad became ill and couldn't work, how did you think the loan repayments were being managed? Mother-in-law's eyes widened, and confusion emerged amidst her surprise. It became clear that she hadn't thought about the actual situation.
But seeing you always at home, how are you managing to repay the loan?
I've explained multiple times, but I work freelance, creating children's books, which earns me income.
You were actually working and earning. I thought you were just drawing pictures on the computer as a hobby.
It's not like that. I've been handing you $500 every month, plus covering the loan repayments. And I have to consider living expenses on top of that.
Despite that, Oh, how did this happen?
You, who always think only about yourself, can't you understand the efforts and situations of others?
Meanwhile, the sound of a wheelchair gradually approached from the back of the house, and soon, the father-in-law appeared on the scene.
Dad, why now?
Sister-in-law and mother-in-law were surprised by Jared's arrival, and hurriedly ran to him. They seemed to feel like victims and began to passionately recount the recent events.
Dad, listen to this. Sarah is seriously talking about letting go of this house.
Doing such a thing without thinking about where we will live from now on. It's unbelievable. Why would you?
Tearfully, they expressed their feelings of being treated unfairly by the father-in-law. Yet, the father-in-law's face remained stern, his eyes coldly scrutinizing the two.
I am aware of the matter. I myself have accepted the proposal to sell the house and agreed to it.
Are shocked by the father-in-law's calm response and are at a loss for words. Indeed, the father-in-law had understood the decision to sell the house, and there was a deep reason behind it. It was evident that by letting go of the house, they would need to find a new place to live. But if that step wasn't taken, their perception of the current situation would never change. There is no guarantee as to how sincerely they will reflect, even with this decision being made. Yet, the father-in-law hoped that they would regret, even a little, and that the feelings would lead to genuine reflection, as he had expressed his opinion in a discussion the other day.
Sarah has shown endless effort for our family, even after Sam left us early, despite her youth and the opportunity to enjoy her life freely. She dedicated her time and energy to taking care of me, and yet you two take her effort for granted without showing any appreciation.
Boo, but that was, pay giving was something Sarah chose to do by herself.
Don't utter such foolish words. Being the one receiving care, I know firsthand how heavy and challenging it is. Sarah has shouldered this tough job almost alone. Your casual talk about her dedication.
Up until now, every time the mother-in-law treated me maliciously, the father-in-law intervened on my behalf. But never before had I seen him raise his voice in anger like this. In front of the trembling father-in-law, fueled by anger, the mother-in-law shrank in fear. Amidst this, suddenly the sister-in-law starts crying out loud.
But if we sell this house, how am I supposed to live? Have you thought about my future?
She ruffled her hair roughly as she spoke through her tears. But right after that, her expression changed completely. She turned a slightly eerie, pleading smile towards the father-in-law and continued to speak. She said, gazing at the father-in-law.
Dad, if I'm not mistaken, you're already receiving your pension, right? We could rely on that pension to rent a new house and start a new life there. How about living there together with me?
Her voice was slightly trembling, and as she tightly gripped her father-in-law's shoulder, she desperately tried to convey her feelings. Although surprised by her action, the father-in-law thought about his reaction calmly.
Karen, I'm trying to understand, but it seems like you've been only thinking about yourself all along. Perhaps this is a chance for some self-reflection.
She retorted with a displeased face.
But the reason I'm here is because of the assets and house you have. If there's no money or house, there's no meaning for me to be here.
The sister-in-law, getting emotional, forcefully pushed the father-in-law's wheelchair with momentum. The father-in-law almost toppled over in his wheelchair, but I rushed over and stabilized it. I was filled with anger at her sudden action. Karen, what are you doing? This is unacceptable.
What's the matter? There's no value in such an old man for me. I don't care what happens to him.
Her cold words made me hold back an explosion of anger towards her. I didn't want to escalate the issue. While gritting my teeth, I barely managed to suppress my anger as it peaked. Taking deep breaths, I tried to maintain my composure, but then sister-in-law, with a somewhat triumphant expression, made a proposal.
You know, Sarah. If this house is going to be sold anyway, why not give it to me? Considering family bonds, giving it away for free shouldn't be a problem, right? Or, I don't mind moving into your house.
Her proposal seemed utterly audacious and unrealistic. It appeared as though she hadn't accepted any of the scolding she received from the father-in-law earlier. I tried to respond without being swayed by emotion, but my reaction was clearly tinged with anger. I can't believe you'd make such an unrealistic proposal. Karen, shouldn't you learn a bit about social rules and basic human decency? My harsh words surprised Stephanie for a moment, but then she began to argue back fiercely.
Why is everyone being so cold to me? The old folks can't do anything anymore. Sarah doesn't understand my feelings at all, and my husband abandons me over small things.
When she referred to old folks disparagingly, she was talking about her in-laws. I could only be astounded by her remarks. Even considering what had transpired so far, I knew that she had been harboring a displeasing attitude towards me, with my mother-in-law as her accomplice. However, I didn't expect her to react this strongly when her expectations and desires weren't met. Among all the things she said, a particular statement struck a chord with me, and it seemed to have shocked my mother-in-law deeply as well. My mother-in-law was filled with astonishment, turning a pale face towards mother-in-law.
Why would you call me an old hag like that? And what do you mean by abandoned? Karen, did your husband do something to you?
What are you talking about? It's all lies. I just wanted to enjoy a bit of using the assets of this house after losing custody of the kids. I never thought it would come to this. I'm really at my wit's end.
Everyone present was taken aback by the mother-in-law's reckless statement, their faces showing disbelief. My mother-in-law must have never imagined that the daughter she raised turned out to be someone who would chase after money so greedily. Tears welled up in her eyes as she continuously reproached mother-in-law. And mother-in-law, too, began to retaliate with harsh words. Witnessing this intense altercation, my father-in-law sighed deeply and, along with me, sincerely apologized to the real estate agent present.
I am truly sorry. I did not anticipate this happening.
It's all right. I occasionally witness family troubles in my line of work. Please don't worry about it.
The real estate expert replied with a reassuring smile, comforting my bowing father-in-law.
Regarding those two, I will address the matter appropriately. Please proceed with the valuation work without worry.
Jared, I'm sorry for the situation and appreciate your help. Thanks to the kind assistance of my father-in-law, I was able to smoothly progress with the real estate agent on the valuation. The property of my in-laws was situated in a highly convenient area, and the valuation outcome was enough to repay the remaining loan amount. After letting go of that house, I headed to the city hall to formally apply for a dissolution of marriage. Without sharing the detailed address of my new residence and changing my mobile number, I severed the connections with those two. Through these series of actions, I was able to cut ties with them. From then on, I lived my days peacefully and unbound by anything. A few months later, I am visiting my father-in-law again to meet up and catch up on life. George, how are you feeling? Is there anything troubling you or anything you need or are unhappy about?
Actually, the senior home you picked for me has a very good environment and the staff are kind, so I'm spending my days very comfortably.
In the following conversation, I learned that he formally divorced my mother-in-law. Apparently, he had been feeling stressed for a long time due to her spending habits and lack of planning. He shared that the decisive factor was the lack of care and support for him, as she relied on me for everything.
I plan to spend the rest of my days quietly in this senior home. So, Sarah, I sincerely hope that you enjoy your new life and walk a new path.
He encouraged me like that. He had worked hard since his youth and saved well, so he could live comfortably on his pension alone. On the other hand, I am a little worried about my mother-in-law's future. According to him, she's living with my sister-in-law, but the latter doesn't have a stable job and has been changing jobs frequently for short periods. Consequently, to support their living, my mother-in-law has taken up a cashier job at a nearby supermarket for the first time. When we lived together, they were always cooperating to give me a hard time. However, once they started living just the two of them, they seemed to have big fights almost daily. The fights were so frequent and intense that sometimes the police were called due to the noise and trouble in the neighborhood. One day, a close friend of my father-in-law visited me and informed me about their situation. He expressed his gratitude.
Honestly, I feel lighter after the divorce. I think it's because you were there, Sarah.
He said with a sincere smile.
After that, I've been enjoying living alone quietly in a downtown apartment.
Now, as a picture book author, I've turned my hobby of drawing into a job and gradually becoming known to more people. Actually, I've loved drawing since childhood and have always wanted to create picture books that children could enjoy reading in the future. That dream has become a reality, and now I am creating picture books loved by many children. Although I don't have children of my own, the words of gratitude and thoughts I receive from my young readers are the best rewards for me. Recently, a new companion, a cat, has joined my life. One day while walking in the park, I found the cat injured and immobile, so I took it in. Luckily, the apartment I live in allows pets. Remembering that my husband had always wanted to live with a cat, I decided to keep this one. The distinctive features around the cat's eyes somehow remind me of my husband. Inspired by my husband's name, I named the cat Sammy. Recently, I started working on a picture book featuring Sammy as the protagonist, which surprisingly received high praise, and I am now considering proposals to create related merchandise. With Sammy by my side, I don't feel the loneliness of living alone at all. In the past, I felt forced into a life where my freedom was taken away under my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, but with the support of my father-in-law, I was able to start a new life. Along with that, I feel there has been a positive movement in my career as well. There are still many pages left in my life, and seeking the happiness that awaits ahead, I plan to make the most of the current positive momentum and continue striving for more.
My supervisor at the branch office, where I was relocated, unfairly harassed me. I even got coffee splashed on me and was held responsible for someone else's error. Then something changed for me. I threw open my arms after completing the evaluation of my most recent document. All right, that's a wrap for today. I saw that half of the staff had already left for the day when I looked around the floor. Time to head home myself, I guess. I got up from my desk after finishing my cold coffee. Kevin is my name. I work at a reputable large corporation's headquarters. I suppose I'm seen as having mid-level tenure at this point. I don't want to brag, but I'm not that intelligent, and I didn't go to a famous university. In addition, I am clumsy and awkward. I've always paid attention to even the tiniest things and worked harder than anyone else because of this. I am now the most successful of my classmates as a result of this. That's not actually how I perceive myself. I simply concentrated on finishing the tasks assigned to me, taking each one on day by day. In my private life, I'm thinking of getting married to my girlfriend. Like me, Emily, my girlfriend, is modest and diligent, although she doesn't stand out much. Maybe it has always felt good to be together because we are so similar. It was everything going well. I thought I could live this happy life indefinitely. Exactly like that. Kevin, can I talk to you for a minute? My employer, Will, called me just as noon was approaching. Yes. What is it? I apologize for the last-minute request, but after speaking with Will, I can't recall how I got home. I couldn't even remember what I had done. The directive to move to a regional branch came as a total surprise. What a sudden transfer order, and at such an odd moment. I may not be aware of it, yet I might have made a mistake. A demotion, to put it another way. I believe I had been putting in a lot of effort, but perhaps I made a big mistake somewhere, one that could have affected the business. I was too scared to check it out. I was scared to confront it and run the risk of losing my job. It's useless to think about it. As I packed my belongings, I reminded myself, let's try our best. My name is Kevin, and I was moved from headquarters. Good to meet you. Max, my new supervisor, gave me a sly glance on my first day. So you're the guy, Kevin. Huh. Max's unfriendly manner made me unconsciously cringe. I was led to my desk by a youthful-looking female employee who said, Kevin, please use this desk over here. I scanned the floor gently. Except for Max, all the others appeared to be good-hearted workers. That only served to highlight Max's eerie presence. I have to deal with this guy as my boss now. Just the thought made my stomach churn. Hey, Kevin. Max began calling me over for every little thing, constantly complaining and grumbling. Max started yelling about problems that were unrelated to me, leading one of the colleagues, fed up, to intervene and clarify. That's not Kevin's fault. He wasn't responsible for those documents. Then Max turned to me with a contemptuous look and remarked, Oh, quite the ladies' man, aren't you? Already got the women defending you. It was at that moment I truly felt anger boiling within me. Don't worry about it, Kevin. Will is just envious because you're from headquarters, a seasoned employee confided in me. I have known that transfers from headquarters often face this kind of underhanded harassment. I used to regard male jealousy as more contemptible than female jealousy, as if it were someone else's issue. Hey, if you're encountering such hostility, maybe you should consider leaving. I found myself venting during our conversation. That's not an option I'm concerned about. I fear the stress might take a toll on Kevin, Emily voiced, her tone laced with worry. It's all right. But if this continues, leaving might be on the table. So don't fret too much, I reassured Emily, and myself too. In an environment where a superior unjustly targets their staff based on personal biases, the outcome is often predictable. Something is bound to happen if I go. But the thought of running away here is also frustrating. It feels like losing to Max. Just thinking about how he would act if I quit makes my blood boil. If I'm going to quit, I might as well give him a piece of my mind first. I made up my mind, determined not to lose to someone like him. The reason for my transfer remained a mystery. However, I was determined not to succumb to despair or abandon my duties. Then Max challenged me. Hey, can you secure this deal? His probing look was evident. Show us what you're made of, Kevin, Max taunted, his sneer deeply unsettling. Understood. I'll give it my best shot. Regaining my composure, I contacted the client to schedule a business meeting. As I methodically tackled my tasks, I thought I caught a glimpse of Max's displeased expression. But I dismissed the thought and focused on my work. The following day, I arrived at the client's location at the appointed time. However, I was met with an unexpected response at the reception. "You've missed your scheduled time," they informed me. That seemed impossible. Despite my insistence, I was told they had another engagement and couldn't meet with me, forcing me to return to the office. Throughout the return journey, I continuously checked my planner. I was certainly on time for the appointment. Why? Could I have misunderstood? No, it's not. I checked, and they checked too. Where did I go wrong? The source of the error remained elusive. Back at the office, bewildered, I had to face the reality that the deal had fallen through. Reporting this was inevitable. Upon my arrival, Max inquired, "You sealed the deal, of course." His tone, dripping with sarcasm, made me pause. But I knew concealing the truth was futile. As I recounted the events, Max's reprimand was disproportionately loud. "Big talk, yet you botched the timing. Such an error is inexcusable for someone not new to this. Do you think you can afford to slack off just because this is a branch office?" Max's harsh scolding halted everyone in the office in their tracks. "No, I didn't get the time wrong," I started to say when, suddenly, he threw the coffee from his cup at me. "Still talking back, huh? You think you can mock me?" Max stood up, looking like he was about to grab me. Just then, an elderly man entered. "Sorry to interrupt," he said. I had no idea at that moment that this man would come to my rescue. As I wiped myself off with a towel, the man quickly brought me another. I listened to his words. "Here's my business card," he said, handing it to Max. Max's attitude changed instantly. He turned pale. The man came over to me and said with a kind smile, "Nice to meet you. I'm Abel. You must be Kevin." I clasped his hand and apologized. "I'm terribly sorry for the inconvenience caused by my tardiness today. It was truly inexcusable. Please don't worry. The change in time was my request." "I thought my staff had informed your boss, Max," he said. As President Abel spoke, he gave Max a sharp look. Max, with a barely audible voice, looked down. "Kevin, I've been aware of your work since you were at the headquarters. I've always thought of you as someone who makes sure to communicate even the smallest changes. A person capable of detailed negotiations. I was looking forward to meeting you when I heard you would be handling this," he said with a warm smile. I felt a bit embarrassed. "Max, what is this about?" It seems Kevin wasn't aware of the time change. Is this some sort of harassment against Kevin, who came from the headquarters to cause inconvenience to the company? What were you thinking? President Abel questioned Max in a calm yet firm tone. "No, I didn't mean to. I just forgot to pass on the message," Max stammered. At Max's words, everyone in the room looked up. "So, you're saying you blamed me for your own communication error?" I asked, barely able to get the words out. Max, still looking down, didn't respond. While everyone was focused on Max, President Abel said, "Kevin, if it's all right with you, I would like to have a word again." His words lightened the tense atmosphere. Later, I was given another chance to present. I was more pleased about getting time from President Abel than the outcome itself. Feeling lighter on my way back to the office, I received a call from President Abel himself, offering me a job. "Yes," I exclaimed without thinking. Catching myself, I quickly looked around. It was a relief, a huge relief. That was all I could think of. I didn't care if my reputation suffered. I could always work hard again, but I didn't want to be the reason the company suffered due to my mistakes. It was truly a relief. I needed to get back to the office quickly and report this. Trying to contain my excitement, I hurried back to the company. "The deal is closed," I announced. Applause broke out. "Congratulations. That's great." I was greeted with congratulatory messages from everyone. Then I realized Max wasn't at his desk. "Where's Max?" Everyone exchanged glances. "He's been demoted," transferred to a remote location, someone informed me. I was surprised. When you anger President Abel, this is the inevitable outcome, they said. Everyone was talking, chuckling wryly. Ina was appointed as Max's successor. Quiet and unassuming, she always had a knack for subtly supporting everyone. I later found out she couldn't get promoted due to Max's presence. Max's demotion was heavily influenced by President Abel's decision. Realizing the magnitude of President Abel's influence, I shuddered at the thought of what could have happened if I had been wrongly accused of missing the appointment. Being favored by someone as influential as President Abel means you are really exceptional, Kevin, Eno said with a gentle smile. Feeling somewhat embarrassed, I just smiled and shrugged it off. After a day full of events, I collapsed onto my bed, and before I knew it, it was morning. Last night sure was eventful, I muttered involuntarily as I sipped my coffee. As I arrived at the office, I immediately noticed the distinct atmosphere, a stark contrast to what it had been before. When the leadership changes, the atmosphere changes too. Lost in these thoughts, I received a phone call. It was Will, my supervisor from the time I was at the headquarters. "How about coming back here soon?" he asked. It was during a lunch break when I called him back that I first learned the truth. It turned out I wasn't demoted. Instead, I was transferred to gain experience in regional operations, deemed necessary for my future at the company. "You're considered a promising talent for the future," Will said. I thought I had been demoted for messing something up. Feeling deflated and speaking in a drained voice, I heard Will apologize. Sorry, I couldn't really go into details." "My bad," he said, laughing. "When can you return?" he asked. I hesitated for a moment. "Can I have some time, please?" I asked. It wasn't a demotion. That was a huge relief for me. Sure, I had the desire to return to the headquarters. If I went back now, I'd probably get a promotion, but for some reason, I couldn't genuinely feel happy about it. The headquarters, in a way, must always be in a state of perfection. It's that kind of place. Striving for that is something to be proud of. But what about the branch office where I am now? What's the situation there? With someone as incompetent as Max at the helm, I couldn't help but wonder if this branch was in a worse state than others. What was its current state? Driven by an irresistible urge, I hastily emailed a colleague at the headquarters. Sure enough, I skimmed through the list attached to the mail. Our branch was close to the bottom among all branches. I had heard that soon after my transfer, Max had forced out employees who were more competent and likely to advance to protect his own position. Indeed, Max's responsibility for putting his own pride ahead of the company's benefit was significant. But I also thought it problematic that the headquarters had been completely oblivious to such a state of affairs. The next day, I confided everything to Will, the fact that not a single capable employee was left, that the headquarters had been unaware of this until now. As someone who came from the headquarters and was supposed to return, I couldn't leave the branch in this condition. I wanted one more year. Could I not return to the headquarters after setting a clear path forward in that year? I knew I was being presumptuous. If the headquarters had written off this branch, they would tell me to come back immediately. It was a sort of gamble. "Can you give me some time?" "I'll talk to the high-ups," Will said. "Please and thank you." After hanging up, I let out a small sigh. 1 year. That's all. After a year, "You're coming back to the headquarters. That's final," he said. 2 days later, Will called me. "Thank you so much." Right after hanging up, I went straight to Anna. "There's something I need to discuss with you." Anna was incredible from that moment on. She listened earnestly to what I had to say and asked me to work hard together. The next morning, she laid out the current situation of our branch minus 12 employees without sugarcoating anything, and even disclosed that I had postponed my return to the headquarters for a year to try and turn things around. As the discussion progressed, I noticed the sparkle returning to everyone's eyes. Initially, they all had the look of dead fish in their eyes, just coming to the office and leaving at closing time. That was all. That's why our performance never improved, and we were just barely surviving. After the morning assembly, some started revising documents, others came up with proposals for clients. Some contacted previously rejected clients to secure business deals. Everyone began to take the initiative in whatever they could do. Seeing everyone like this, Anna said nostalgically, "This was how it used to be in the beginning." Everyone lost their motivation after that. "Max came," said Olivia and his colleague, with a bitter expression, and later confided in me that when Olivia was young, she was very beautiful, and Max had been persistently pursuing her. But when Olivia got married, he started harassing her. Yet the strong-willed Olivia decided, "I won't be defeated by someone like him," and stayed out of sheer stubbornness. "There's nothing stronger than a woman who's made up her mind," she said with a smile. "So, you're coming back soon, huh?" About 3 months before the promised day, when I was finally going to return to the headquarters, I told Emily. I thought Emily would understand, but it's natural to want me back sooner if there's a chance. Being told that by Emily was tough for me too. That's why I had been hiding it, feeling guilty. "Isn't there anything left for you to do there?" I was taken aback by the unexpected question. "Why?" "Because of Kev, you can't just abandon them and go to a safe place for yourself, can you?" Emily seemed to see right through me. "I've done everything I could. Now it's up to everyone who's left to keep up the effort," I replied with a weary voice. "Right, you've got 3 months left. Give it your best," she said with a smile. Despite my being so selfish, the fact that Emily could forgive me with a smile made me deeply respect her. This past year, I stayed and worked hard, even at the cost of making Emily feel lonely. Soon, the results of that effort will be revealed. It could go either way. There's no way it'll turn out badly. It can't be worse than before, Emily assured me. Even so, the anticipation made my heart race. If the results of the big show at the head office and the results of staying behind are inconsequential, the higher everyone's expectations are for the branch office and for me, the more scared I am when I can't produce results beyond my expectations. Sometimes, you just have to face things head on, Olivia said over coffee. Reflecting on the phrase, "A determined woman is strong," I feel its truth more deeply than ever. Seeing this, Olivia grins at me, catching my involuntary smile. At exactly noon, the report card was sent out. Everyone present watched in utter silence as if they'd forgotten to breathe. Did we do it? No way. That's amazing. The employees began to exclaim one after another. Looking at the report card handed to us, our branch had achieved the top sales nationwide. Olivia, nicknamed the Iron Lady, had tears in her eyes and quietly said, "We owe all our achievements to you, Kevin. Thank you so much." And everybody applauded. I couldn't find the words, pretending not to notice my vision blurring. Soon after, I returned to the headquarters and was promoted 2 levels. I even checked with Will, wondering if there was some mistake. He just laughed, saying, "You've earned it with your achievements." Every time I met with the higher-ups, they would invariably say, "You've done well," but envy started to show among my peers. It's inevitable when you get promoted. I was confronted by many, but it took quite some time to get used to it. If you work hard, there will always be someone watching over you. You must never give up, my wife Emily says happily. I truly believe that if you earnestly persevere and do what you believe is right, there will eventually come a day when your efforts are rewarded, just like it was for someone like me whose only merit was being serious. Despite my full confusion, she smiled and gave me an eager grin, saying, "Wow, fantastic. Who are you, James?" I was dumbfounded and said, "Huh," when she tugged my hand and showed me a certain screen. James is my name. I'm 30 years old. Since I was a little child, I have liked reading, and after I graduated from college, I was hired by a chain bookstore. My professional life started when I was assigned to a bookstore in downtown New York. Being surrounded by books was a lot of joy, and I felt like I had discovered my vocation when I talked to clients about books. After 5 years of employment, I was promoted to head office after my sales performance was acknowledged. It was a promotion. I've worked at the headquarters for 3 years, and today I'm working with sales data as usual. Mike, my boss, once requested me to get the documents ready for a crucial meeting. He asked me to take a specific regional store's sales data and graph it. Clearly, the data came from a store that wasn't doing well. This is Mike. As Mike passed by, I yelled out to him and inquired about it. Mike, a mildly attractive man in his early 40s, remarked, "Oh, we're debating whether to close that store," while clumsily scratching the back of his head. He looked at my laptop and said, "The data doesn't look good." On a previous trip, I had already traveled to this location and visited the store. It stood in a corner of a dilapidated retail area. I was graciously assisted by a lovely woman my age when I inquired about a book. Despite her lack of friendliness, she was well versed in lesser-known writers. "I've been there. It has many books and is a little larger." I whispered, "It would be sad if it vanished." Mike gave a nod. The demise of physical stores is disheartening. "Extract the info for me, please." As he went back to his desk, he patted my shoulder and scratched his head, saying, "Thanks." He has a propensity of scratching his head when he's angry. It's likely that he also doesn't want to discuss closing the store. There is a noticeable drop in reading, and retailers all over the world are having trouble keeping up with the popularity of ebooks and the ease of online shopping. With a groan, I started working on the data extraction. Mike called me a few days later. "Is it hard to say something?" As I saw him using both hands to scratch his head, I thought, "James, can you transfer to that store that's up for closure?" he asked, looking at me as though he was making up his mind. It came out of nowhere. He continued to stroke his head, and I was so stunned that I was unable to speak. "I apologize. It would be unfortunate to lose it because it is the only store in that area. I merely thought of you when the head office proposed sending someone. You mentioned that you would be upset if the store closed, correct?" In a regretful tone, he explained, "So, I ended up suggesting you. You can, of course, refuse at this point. I'm capable of managing it. However, your sales record is what took you to the main office, correct? Perhaps you might do better on the sales floor," I thought. As I listened to his words, I was astounded. "But, I'm sorry. I know you just got a head office position. I'll try to keep your benefits the same." He apologized so intensely that I snapped out of it. "No, Mike, please stop. I'll go. I'll go," I said. When I said this, he looked bewildered. "But it's kind of like a demotion, you know," he said. Demotion or not, it didn't matter. Leaving New York would be a bit sad, but this was a dream come true for me. "Mike, please proceed with this." "Thank you. I love working in sales," I said with a big smile. He looked confused, but I wasn't lying. Mike had no reason to feel guilty. I aimed to work in a bookstore because I wanted to be surrounded by books. Being a bookstore clerk is my calling. Working at the head office taught me a lot, but I still wanted to be on the floor, handling books. While he looked puzzled, I joyfully expressed my gratitude for the chance to return to being a clerk. A few months later, after receiving the transfer order and getting a period for preparation, I finally stood in front of the regional branch, ready to work as a bookstore clerk again. It's still in the same run-down shopping district with little foot traffic. As I pondered how to revitalize the store, I noticed a piece of paper on the ground. Picking it up, I saw it was a promotional flyer from the store. It explained the key points of a book they wanted to draw interest to. The flyer was for a romance novel I had read, with cute handwriting saying, "It'll move everyone, young and old," and packed with reviews. Yes, that part moved me too," I nodded, reading along with the flyer. I heard a voice from behind. May I help you? Turning around, I saw a woman with thick glasses glaring at me. The store opens at 10, but do you need something? Looking closely, wasn't she the clerk who helped me when I traveled here? I think she wore glasses back then, too. Are you a clerk here? I asked. She nodded. I'm starting here today. My name is James, I said, raising my voice a bit. She flinched a little. Ah, are you the one transferring from the head office? Saying this, she apologized. My deepest apologies. I'm Emily, the manager here. Nice to meet you. Her polite greeting left me confused. She's the manager, and I'm just an employee. Why is she being so formal? As I pondered, she spoke hesitantly. We haven't met the targets set by the head office. I'm truly sorry you've come all the way here because of that. Hearing this, I panicked. No, I came from the head office, but it's just a regular transfer. I'm not here in any senior position. She must have been under a lot of pressure from not meeting the head office targets. Amidst this, she was frightened by the arrival of someone transferred from the head office. She thought she'd be directly supervised, managed, and reprimanded. When I told her it was a complete misunderstanding, her eyes behind the glasses welled up with what seemed like relief. However, the head office had sent me here with the goal of boosting the store's sales. Let's work on this together, I smiled at her. But she responded with a cold, yes, looking forward to working with you, and went inside. Our initial interaction suggested a challenging road ahead for communication. A few days later, while working at the store, I observed many things. The first thing I noticed was the lack of energy. Emily, the manager, seemed constantly stressed from the head office pressure. As a result, she always seemed on edge. Consequently, the part-time staff also lacked enthusiasm. They tried to avoid Emily as much as possible and interacted with customers in a rather detached manner, likely out of fear of making mistakes. Moreover, there were very few customers. Given the lack of people in the shopping district, this was understandable. But it was my job to find a solution. I racked my brain. For now, I decided to tweak the promotional pop a bit. The PO I found on my first day had excellent content about the novel with wonderful, relatable comments. However, only if you read it all. The small text was densely packed. While you could feel the creator's love for the book, reading all of it without prior interest would be tough. But I liked this POV. I felt not only the love, but also the kindness of the person who made it. The card, softly painted in pink and carefully written, was charming. I slipped the PLP into my pocket and started creating a more straightforward version. While setting up the new PLP, I continued observing the store. Customers would read a bit and then leave, or they would glance around and say, "I'll just look it up online," before walking out. There had to be a way to turn this around. I carefully observed customer behavior. One day, an older woman was browsing the children's book section, picking up and putting back various books. When I approached her, she was initially wary, but eventually told me she was looking for something that might interest her grandson, who didn't like reading. My eyes lit up. I love children's books too. They are easy to read, and I often read them lightly before bed when I'm tired from work. It helps me sleep well. After asking about her grandson's interests, I recommended 2 books. She bought both and left with a smile, saying she'd bring her grandson next time. This could be a breakthrough. Excited by the customer's smile, I eagerly suggested to Emily, "I think there are many people who want their kids or grandkids to read more. Can we enhance the children's book section a bit?" She paused, thinking. Her lack of visible emotions often made her seem stern when she was silent. However, in the past few days, I realized that she wasn't angry, but was simply reflecting on what was said. After a moment, she looked up. "Yeah, I think that's a good idea. How about placing it near the entrance?" Elated by her approval, I set up the section. With the help of a part-timer, We managed to create a cute section. I went to report it to Emily, only to hear her distressed voice saying, "No way. Please wait. That's impossible on such short notice." It seems she was on the phone with someone. I waited for the call to end, then cautiously opened the office door to find her eyes brimming with tears. I rushed in, fully opening the door. "What's wrong?" She quickly turned away, not wanting me to see her tears. "It's none of your business. Get back to work," she dismissed me. But I persisted. Was it from the head office? Did they say something? A target? It must have been a direct hit. Her shoulders shook as she explained. "They've set an annual sales target. It's 3 times our current sales. If we don't achieve it within a year, they'll close us down. They want monthly progress reports, and if we're not performing well, they might close us before the year is up," she told me in a trembling voice. I had only been assigned here for less than a month. What was happening at the head office? However, even if I confronted Mike at the head office, their decision wouldn't change. So, show me the target. I saw there was no genre specified. In bookstores, it's common to have targets for specific genres, like increasing magazine sales. Here, if magazines had been specified, it would have been challenging. So I felt a bit relieved. Thinking it over, I muttered, "We might have a chance," making Emily turn around with a glimmer of hope. "Really?" Her eyes behind the glasses were wet. I patted my chest. "Yes, let's do this. Let's prove them wrong." When I said this, I thought I saw the corners of her mouth lift slightly. I love bookstores. Being surrounded by books filled with so many emotions. I don't want to lose the store. I don't want to lose it. I felt the same way. I heard that she was also 30 years old. Such a huge responsibility on the shoulders of a young woman. I wanted to lighten that burden, even if just a little. A fire was lit in my heart. I went to the newly created children's book corner at the storefront and started calling out to passersby. "I can recommend books that will make your kids love reading. Please lend me your ear." With that introduction, I began explaining the books for early elementary school students from the corner I had just set up. It was early afternoon. Some women returning from lunch and elderly people coming back from shopping started to gather. As I was explaining, some customers asked the part-timer, "Where's that book he mentioned?" This set off a chain reaction, with many people picking up various books. When I couldn't keep up with the demand, I called for help, and Emily came out. She was surprised to see the crowd of customers, but quickly started answering their questions politely. While I was explaining to other customers, I could naturally hear her explanation. Her pleasant voice discussing the children's detective series was precise and captivating. It was clear that she had thoroughly researched children's books as well. In just a few hours, we sold a considerable number of children's books, achieving the highest sales in recent times. It became clear that this demographic was responsive to children's book promotions. Next, the plan was to organize a reading event and then a book report contest. While talking to customers earlier, I learned that this area assigns book report homework during winter break. I shared this with Emily, discussing the strategy after a customer bought a fantasy children's book and mentioned it would be perfect for a book report. "Can we distribute flyers to schools?" I asked. I was thinking we could have a book report fair with books categorized by genre and grade level, not just the recommended books, but other interesting ones as well. When I suggested this, she added, "How about including advice on how to write the reports? We could create chart-style guides to help them." We then discussed which books would be best. Since we both love books, the conversation was lively. Emily looked so cute when she talked excitedly. I had a sudden thought. You would look cute without glasses. She suddenly stiffened. "What did you just say?" It's inappropriate to make such comments to a woman. Realizing I had spoken my thoughts aloud, I was shocked. Apparently, what I had been thinking slipped out of my mouth. I hastily tried to make excuses, but she just went back to work. Oh, things were going so well. Regretting my slip of the tongue, I finished the rest of my work. 2 days later, during Emily's time off, I enhanced the reading corner. I created a space where parents and children could freely enjoy reading together. Starting today, I plan to propose having scheduled reading times where staff would read to children. I went to find Emily to suggest this and was surprised when I saw her. She wasn't wearing her glasses and was blushing. It's not because of what you said, James. I didn't switch to contacts because of you. It just so happened, really, just a coincidence. I got a coupon. Her awkward explanation was too cute. I was surprised at how large her eyes actually were. The thick lenses of her glasses had made them look smaller. Cute. The words slipped out, making her turn bright red. Can't you control what comes out of your mouth? She asked. I don't usually blurt out my thoughts like this, I struggled to explain. A part-timer arrived and started fussing over Emily's missing glasses, providing me with an escape. She was blushing and protesting, but I could see glimpses of a smile. The part-timer, surprised by her smile, continued the conversation. Once again, I accidentally spoke my mind. You should smile more. It creates a more approachable atmosphere. The part-timer's face turned pale, and I realized I had messed up again. But this time, Emily didn't get angry. Oh, I'm sorry. Was I unapproachable? Both the part-timer and I were taken aback. Although our conversation ended as the workday began, seeing Emily practicing smiling in front of the mirror filled my heart with a warm feeling, something I kept to myself. 2 weeks later, with winter break approaching, we decided to host the fair. It lasted 3 days. Our project, the Book Report Consultation Fair, spearheaded by Emily and me, kicked off. Thanks to the flyers we distributed to nearby schools and the social media announcements, many people gathered. People crowded around the board I had made. It started with, "Do you like books?" and led to yes or no answers, ultimately recommending genres based on the responses. From there, they were guided to sections categorized by grade and genre. Emily stayed at the book report writing advice corner, gently teaching the kids. In recent days, she had been practicing how to appear more approachable, not just with her smile, but also her tone of voice. Her efforts paid off as a group of curious children gathered around her. An elderly woman with her grandchild in tow mentioned she wanted to read, but her eyes got tired. I recommended audiobooks, where a narrator reads the book aloud. While this doesn't contribute to the store's sales, I strongly encouraged her. Please download from this site. It's our head office's site, I said, handing her a flyer. Hopefully, it would help the head office's sales. The 3-day fair, utilizing a long weekend, ended in great success. Inspired by customer conversations, I had several ideas for future fairs, but needed a break for now. It had been incredibly busy. Taking a breather, I went to the back and found Emily staring at her computer. How was it these past 3 days? It was exhausting, wasn't it? I asked casually. She suddenly approached and started shaking my hand vigorously. Completely confused, I saw her looking at me excitedly with a smile. Amazing. Amazing, James. Who are you? With a dumbfounded huh, I was pulled by the hand and led to her computer. Look at this. Sales. It was the sales figures for the 3 days of the fair. We had easily surpassed the monthly sales target set by the head office. I was astonished. There are so many parents and children struggling with book reports, I remarked. Emily enthusiastically patted my back. No, look at these numbers. Just 3 days. It's unbelievable, James. You're amazing. Despite her excitement, I couldn't fully grasp it. This success was a team effort, and we just happened to hit the mark with the book report theme. Although I had several ideas for future fairs, we needed to ensure people regularly visited the store to achieve our yearly goal. I hadn't figured that out yet. When I mentioned this, she sighed and sat down. You're so calm. I felt it too when customers said, "We'll come back." It wasn't just polite talk. They genuinely meant it, she said. Emily, having interacted with many customers, could sense these things. Her intuition might be trustworthy. You're amazing. I would never have thought of the fair on my own. I was hesitant about the reading corner, wondering who would do the reading, but people were satisfied with my amateurish reading, she admitted. I couldn't help but protest. You're not an amateur. She laughed. She had smiled more in the past few days than I ever thought possible. I'm an amateur. I love books, but hated reading textbooks aloud in school. No, you're a book lover and an expert, I replied. She looked surprised. I actually visited this bookstore once on a trip and asked about a somewhat obscure author. You explained it in detail. I thought you knew everything. I wasn't sure if it was her, but Emily confirmed it was. Tom Johnson. I jumped in surprise. Wait, you remember that? I had indeed asked about that author. It's rare to find his books in bookstores, so I was surprised to see them there. I love that author too. I said, that's why I was so happy to be asked about him. It's amazing that we share the same favorite author. I took out the pop I had kept in my pocket. It was the one I found on my first day at this store. Seeing her expression, I was certain. You wrote this pop, didn't you, Emily? She nodded shyly. I know it's hard to read, but once I start writing, I can't stop. It's ironic that someone who teaches how to write book reports writes such messy texts. Seeing her dejected expression, I couldn't help but smile. I love it. It's full of affection for the book. I thought whoever wrote it must be a kind person. When I said this with a smile, she turned away. Sorry, it's not written by a kind person, she replied. Her comment made me laugh. What's so funny? She asked. You're kind and cute, just as I imagined from the pop. Her face turned red, and she looked down, flustered. Seeing her like this, my feelings naturally poured out. I want to marry someone who loves books like you, Emily. Would you consider dating me with marriage in mind? The words came out naturally and honestly. Her eyes widened in surprise. On the first day, she had been a stern-looking woman with thick glasses, a stern face, and her semi-long hair tied back tightly, making her seem unapproachable. The Emily standing in front of me now had removed her glasses. Her expressions were varied, and her smile was adorable. She was flustered. I'm just a woman who spends her days off reading books, she said. That's great. I want to read with you, I replied. Her face turned bright red. I'm not cute, and I'm plain. No, you're incredibly cute, I said. Her face grew even redder. And I'm not straightforward, she added. I couldn't help but laugh. What are you talking about? You're incredibly straightforward. When I suggested contacts, you came back from your day off wearing them. That's because it was the first time a man said something like that to me, she said, covering her face with both hands. When you said I could be cute, I wanted to live up to that expectation. I couldn't hold back any longer and hugged her in my arms. She whispered, Will you continue to support me? Of course. I feel like we can do anything together. I imagined our future, wanting to read lots of books to our children if I married her. I dreamed of building a small house with a room filled with books. In a sunny room, on a comfortable carpet, Emily and I, along with our children. How many would there be? We'll all read lots of books together. Of course, it would be okay if the kids didn't like books. Just listening to us reading to them would be enough. If we did that, they'd surely grow to love books. Dreaming of such a future, I hugged Emily even tighter.
I was tidying up my desk when I got a call from my supervisor, Emily. I had been thinking about leaving without saying anything, but I was called, so I went grudgingly to her office. Then she made a statement that I found unbelievable. Hey, can you take over the $15 million steal? Above all, I had no desire to labor. It was strange that she wanted me to give such a large project to a recently discharged employee. I couldn't stand her victory any longer, even though her father, David, was the executive vice president. "Can I see the documents?" I asked Emily after coming up with an idea. Emily smiled smugly as she handed me the documents, assuming I had accepted. I looked through them and saw that my suspicion was right. The person in charge was previously labeled as me. The date, though, was from a few months prior to the time I received notice of my termination. What made her bring this up now? It's impossible because they appointed me, I firmly stated, understanding her motives. I apologize. I've been fired. Mark is my name. I was in my mid-50s and working at a company. I've worked for this corporation for over half of my life, starting from the time I graduated. It was a weird feeling, both long and fleeting. I had a rewarding career as a salesperson in the beverage company's sales department. The sales department was divided into the marketing and sales divisions. Nevertheless, as the business grew, I was put in charge of the marketing division, where I currently work. The marketing division was in charge of developing strategies for product sales, in contrast to the sales department, which dealt directly with purchasing and selling. It concentrated on marketing to the market. The marketing department sought to comprehend the behavior of new customers and develop tactics, whilst the sales department worked with current clients. I was originally perplexed by the distinction, but it was really satisfying to sell the plans we looked at and talked about. However, some items didn't sell at all, while others reached unanticipated demographics, even with extensive market research and promotion. The complexity of marketing captivated me. As one of the department's original veterans, I was somewhat older, but I tried to interact with the younger employees. They became more forthcoming with me. I'd like that we could freely share our thoughts in this area. The opinions of young people were highly important, and they quickly obtained information from social media. Trends that appeared to be growing quickly could abruptly stall. It was difficult for me to keep up with this pace at my age, but it was a requirement of the job. Enemies became useful informants once they were on your side. "Mark, Mark," yelled a young male worker at me. "Whom? What is it?" "Our rival company had a major backlash yesterday." "What? Why?" I tried to keep up with online news, but I often missed smaller stories. It seems they messed up with their tagline. He showed me the controversial post. "This one? Seriously? Oh, I saw this yesterday. This is bad. It's outdated and won't fly these days." A female employee passing by joined the conversation. "So it's really bad." "Definitely bad." They both nodded in agreement. "Close call. We were considering a similar angle," I said. "I guess we should change it." Changing the tagline for the project I was working on was a hassle, but it was better than facing a backlash. That's a good idea. It'll backfire these days. This kind of thing gets a lot of backlash. It's better to avoid it. Thanks to everyone, regardless of their seniority, and clearly voicing their opinions, we managed to avoid major mistakes. The marketing department had a great atmosphere. However, this positive work environment was about to change due to a personnel transfer. We have personnel transfers every year, and there was a major reshuffle this time as well. Replacing our calm and always smiling manager, Mike, was a new female boss in her 30s. Emily was somewhat of a celebrity. Rumor had it that she joined the company through her connections with David, the executive VP, and also her father, and was doing whatever she pleased in various departments. In reality, she favored and gave preferential treatment to those who praised her, but those who disagreed or argued with her were forcibly removed. I had been dreading what would happen to this department, which was full of people who spoke their minds, and my worst fears were confirmed. I went to Emily's desk to get approval for a project. This project had been meticulously discussed with the sales team and employees, and we finally put it together. Everyone felt confident about it, and we were ready to move forward with production once we got approval. Emily glanced through the proposal and then said with a dismissive tone, "What's this project? It's terrible." She tossed the papers aside. "What exactly is wrong with it?" I nervously pressed for details. Emily, perhaps seeing it as defiance, glared at me sharply. "What's wrong is wrong. Redo it." But could you tell me what specifically needs to be redone? I was confused and asked. Emily responded with cold words. I said everything. This project is rejected. Wait, please at least let us discuss the content a bit more. Ignoring my plea, Emily stood up and left. I told everyone about Emily's rejection, and we decided to hold a new planning meeting, confident in the previous project. Everyone gathered in the conference room with gloomy expressions. Amidst this, an overly cheerful voice echoed in the room. Why the long faces, everyone? I've got a great idea. Her proposal was outrageous, questionable, and seemed like no market research had been done at all. Even a new graduate could come up with something better. We listened in stunned silence as Emily presented. After a while, a young male employee timidly raised his hand. Excuse me, but how did you set up the persona for this project? Ha, persona? Don't interrupt while I'm talking. Emily snapped, then continued. A persona in marketing terms is a detailed profile of a target customer to give a concrete image of who they are. It's a basic marketing term, she said. It seemed Emily didn't know it. As we listened to her sloppy presentation, everyone exchanged furtive glances. We were all bewildered. When her presentation ended, she asked if there were any questions. I thought for a moment, then raised my hand and clearly stated, "Excuse me, Emily, but we can't proceed with this project." Emily's expression changed. What do you mean? Honestly, this project doesn't hold up as a proposal in marketing. Market research is crucial. Before I could finish, Emily sighed dramatically. You don't get it. What don't I get? I asked. Your position, Emily said, looking down at me with cold eyes. What do you mean by that? Before I could answer, Emily said, You're fired. Don't come back next month. Normally, managers couldn't fire an employee on their own, but it seemed Emily had some influence with her connections, which I couldn't resist. I was suddenly fired from the company I had worked at for over 30 years. Despite being overwhelmed with confusion and sadness, there was no reversing the decision. After a period of feeling down, I decided I couldn't continue like this, so I started looking for a new job while using up my remaining vacation days. Even though I only had connections at my current workplace, it seemed I wouldn't be left without a job at this age, thanks to the help of acquaintances. However, I was concerned about the colleagues I was leaving behind. Unfortunately, that was my last day. I had to talk with everyone during my last day at work. However, things didn't go as planned. As I was cleaning up my desk, Emily suddenly called me. I thought about quitting without saying a word, but I reluctantly headed to her office since I was summoned. Then she said something unbelievable. Hey, take over the $15 million deal. I asked what she meant by taking over a deal on my last day, to which she replied, I've decided to cancel your termination. So, can you start working on this deal right away? While it might have been good that my termination was canceled, I had already secured a new job. Considering the arrangements with my new employer, I couldn't simply undo everything. More importantly, I didn't want to follow Emily's whims anymore. It was strange to assign such a huge project to an employee who was suddenly fired. Even though her father, David, was an executive VP, I couldn't tolerate any more of her arbitrary actions. I came up with an idea and said, Can I see the documents? Mistaking my intentions, Emily handed me the documents with a smug smile. As I flipped through them, my suspicion was confirmed. My name was already listed as the person in charge. However, the date was from several months ago, before I was informed of my termination. Why did she bring up this project at this time? Understanding her intentions, I firmly told Emily. Since they appointed me, it's impossible. I'm fired. What? Emily exclaimed. You're refusing a $15 million deal? Yes. To be precise, I can't take this under your management. I'll handle it at my new job. Emily stood up with a loud bang at my words. It was the first time I had seen her so flustered. What do you mean by that? She shouted, pounding the desk and leaning forward. I sighed and began to explain slowly. When I was first informed of my termination, I consulted with a former colleague who had worked in sales with me. He had planned to work with me in the marketing department, but chose to leave the company to pursue sales elsewhere. He was working as a sales manager at another beverage company at the time. We still went out for drinks, and I wanted his advice as someone who had experienced job transitions. After quietly listening to my story, he finished his beer and said, "Want to join us? Really? Is that okay?" I was surprised by the sudden offer, but he said he was close with their HR manager and would discuss it. Thankfully, things progressed smoothly from there. I never imagined I could transition to a new job so easily. I secured a position at another beverage company in the same industry. Moreover, I was assigned to the marketing department. It truly felt like a stroke of luck. During the interview, Jack, the HR manager, asked if I knew about a major project that had recently started. It was a widely discussed project about forming a business partnership with a rival company. Naturally, it involved a substantial amount of money. The partnership between rival companies had attracted considerable attention in the industry, so I had heard about it but didn't know the details. When I mentioned this, Jack tilted his head in confusion. The documents Jack had included my name. I was surprised and said, "There must be some mistake." But now, I understood this project had indeed come to our company. Emily had secretly tried to hijack a project originally assigned to me, and when it became too much for her, she tried to pass it off. It was bad enough she tried to steal it, but if she attempted it, she should have seen it through. I felt anger towards Emily's approach to her work. She must have bullied her way up to manager by intimidating others and taking credit for their work. Realizing the pettiness of Emily's methods, I sighed deeply once more. Emily had been listening and started trembling with anger, shouting, "Of course you can't refuse. You have to take this project. Even if you say that, panic that I wouldn't take the project." Emily turned to the other employees and said, "Hey, are you going to run away? If you leave, these guys will have to take over. Abandoning your colleagues makes you the worst." Having my colleagues, who had helped me so much, used as hostages left me speechless. But then everyone turned their attention to a figure entering the office. There was a man in a well-tailored suit, exuding authority and presence. "That's enough, Emily. It was David, Dad." Emily's eyes widened, and she took a step back. She must have never expected her father, the executive VP, to appear. David. I couldn't hide my surprise either. Seeing David in the office was rare. It might have even been the first time he visited the marketing department. I had informed him today was my last day, but I never expected him to come. "I'm sorry, Mark. It seems my daughter has caused trouble." David looked at me with an apologetic expression. "No, I never expected you to come. I love my daughter, you see. I've turned a blind eye until now, but this time I couldn't ignore it. I don't know how to apologize enough to you." David looked down. "Please raise your head." "Yes, Dad, why are you apologizing to someone like him?" Emily's face was filled with fear and anxiety. "Emily, you mustn't say someone like him. Mark and I have been colleagues in the sales department for a long time." David firmly rebuked Emily. "David was my senior in the sales department, and we had a long history together. We rarely met since he became the executive VP, but he still invited me for drinks a few times a year. He had contacted me while I was on vacation, and I had told him about what had happened. But Dad, I'm his boss. If you think being a boss means you can do anything, you're gravely mistaken." David raised his voice, and Emily shrank back in fear. "Emily, you've gone too far. You're an adult now. Even though you're my daughter, you'll have to face the consequences yourself." "No, Dad, wait. I didn't do anything." Emily clung to her father with a pale face. "I've been listening to your conversation with Mark from outside the room. It's unacceptable to decide someone's fate based on your whims. You're not suited for a leadership position." "That's not true. I did well in my previous department too." Emily tried to defend herself, tears in her eyes. "I hate to say this, but all you've been doing is taking credit for others' work to climb up the ladder. That's not real work. Stop this childish behavior. That's cruel." "It's not childish. I was doing my job properly." Ignoring Emily's tearful pleas, David turned his back on his daughter. "I will report this matter to Mr. Smith. It's my fault for letting it go this far. Mark, I'm truly sorry for what happened. I hope you excel at your new job." Thank you. I'd love to go out for drinks again sometime. David smiled and left the marketing department, leaving a crying Emily behind. Not long after, I resigned. Emily's fate was decided as well. She was demoted and transferred to a remote sales office. It was a clear case of being sidelined. David voluntarily offered to cut his executive compensation. The marketing team continued to work diligently, expressing their opinions freely in project meetings. They seemed to be satisfied with their new boss, and the tone of their occasional emails to me was cheerful. I hoped they would keep their sincerity and continue to have fulfilling days ahead. Mark. A young male employee called out to me as I was looking at my PC. What's up? Check this out. This post is going viral. What? Which one? This one, right here. He showed me his phone screen. Wow, it's getting a lot of comments. Yes, we've nailed the buzz factor. Reading through the comments, I couldn't help but pump my fist. This photo is great too. I'm really happy. The young employee chuckled at my reaction. What's funny? Well, you always talk to us so casually that I forget there's a big age gap between us. I felt a bit of a generation gap just now. What? When? What was it? As I panicked, he coldly responded, "It's a secret." Why? Tell me. Nope. Smiling mischievously, he returned to his desk. Come on, seriously. I didn't understand what caused the generation gap, so I tilted my head and returned my gaze to the computer. A few months had passed since I started my new job. Even though it was the same industry and the same marketing department, the internal systems and methods were, of course, different. Learning new things at this age was challenging, but both young and veteran employees had started talking to me casually lately. Many people had strong opinions, and being able to work while challenging each other was immensely gratifying. The $15 million project was still ongoing. Ultimately, the project at my old company was taken over by a trusted colleague, which was a relief. Meeting up with him during meetings was always something to look forward to. My career change reaffirmed that there is still much to learn in marketing. Despite my age, I'm still a newcomer here, and I want to absorb as much as I can. Mark, the meeting is starting. At my colleague's call, I stood up energetically. Coming. I headed to the meeting room with a spring in my step. I wondered what kind of ideas would come up today. I opened the door to the meeting room with anticipation.
Oh, Emily, I went on a work retreat to a hot spring inn today. I was humming to myself as I made my way to the hot spring after the exciting party with my coworkers when I noticed someone unconscious in front of the changing area. I hurried over and saw that it was Emily, the chief, my boss. Emily, are you okay? She hardly answered when I called out to her. Her face was red, as was her body, which I lifted out of instinct. She appeared to have passed out from the heat. Oh, the sound that escaped her lips astonished me. I was in a hurry to assist her and failed to realize that her yukata had come loose, exposing too much of her thighs and chest. I heard multiple male voices coming from the men's restroom at that very moment. I couldn't abandon her in this condition. I brought her to my nearby room, thinking rapidly. Have you noticed me? You're the worst. She misunderstood and scolded me severely when she woke up. However, this experience made me realize Emily's actual character. John is my name. I work in sales for a company that specializes in wholesale groceries. I've always enjoyed interacting with and watching people, and my outgoing personality has helped me succeed in my sales career, which has kept me at the top of the rankings for the past 12 months. My profession involves selling goods, but I also like the opportunity to visit different businesses and shops and interact with different individuals. I still enjoy it as much as I did as a rookie, even after 3 years. Despite my hectic schedule and occasional setbacks, I have a trustworthy employer and encouraging coworkers, which makes my job quite rewarding. Despite my odd personality, I enjoy going to work every day. The work itself is fun, of course, but there's a major bonus as well. That's because of Emily, my boss. Despite only being in her 20s, her remarkable professional accomplishments have already propelled her to a top position, and she radiates a cool, capable aura. Some coworkers feel uncomfortable around her because of her severe attitude toward work and her strictness with herself and others. She never falters at work, and her perfectionism elicits both praise and criticism. But when I was just starting out, I was really impressed by Emily's work ethic and her genuine interactions with clients, and I thought, I want to be like Emily. I've been observing her ever since. Serving her every day has also allowed me to see some surprising aspects of her that she probably isn't aware of. One of the sticky notes on her PC reads, "Today's menu," as a grocery list, and she has a lovely bear charm on a pen and a pen holder on her desk. I grinned to myself at these cute things about her. I can't let Emily see me like this, of course. It started out as sheer admiration, but has progressively evolved into a clear awareness of her as a woman. She most likely isn't aware of my feelings, and I'm positive she wouldn't be attracted to someone with my baby-faced and perpetual smile. However, that's all right. Being with her is sufficient for me, even if our connection is limited to that of a boss and employee in a business. However, a concerning issue has emerged recently. President Johnson's only son, Aaron, was moved to our sales department 6 months ago and assumed the role of section manager. The once pleasurable workplace has undergone significant transformation since then. On the one hand, he made younger staff members go on cabaret tours and drinking parties. Conversely, he would publicly say, "I'll demote anyone who can't do their job," if he spotted someone he didn't like, especially those who criticized him. He also showed many outrageous behaviors, such as finding female employees he liked and saying, "I'll make her my secretary," to keep them close to him. His father, President Johnson, was a masterful businessman who had significantly grown the company and was known for his friendly demeanor. However, when it came to his own son, he seemed to be lenient, failing to reprimand him strongly. Taking advantage of his father's leniency, Aaron's behavior escalated, making everyone in the department constantly fearful of his mood. Like everyone else, I had my grievances with Aaron, but couldn't voice them and had to keep my head down and work in silence. Emily, being directly under Aaron's supervision, was frequently called upon and given tasks. At first, it wasn't too bad, but over time, Emily's expressions grew darker after each encounter with Aaron, and I grew increasingly worried. Knowing Aaron, he might have been verbally abusing Emily with baseless accusations. Though I wanted to do something, my cowardice kept me from acting, and time just passed by. One day, I saw a familiar figure in the hallway. It was Emily. She seemed to have just returned from outside, and as I was about to greet her, she suddenly looked like she was about to collapse. "Watch out." I rushed over and caught her. Though Emily was always slender, her body felt alarmingly light when I held her. "Emily, are you okay?" I asked. She looked up at me with a pale face. Her complexion was so bad that I became even more worried and was about to ask more, but as soon as she saw my face, she screamed, "Don't touch me." She pushed me away with surprising strength, causing me to stumble backward. Emily's expression changed to one of shock when she saw me standing there in a daze. She quickly said, "I'm sorry," and ran away from the scene. Watching her retreating figure, I recalled what had just happened. Sure, it was inappropriate to touch a woman's body so abruptly, even in an emergency, but her reaction seemed to stem from more than just that. Even though it was unexpected, it was a strong enough force to make a man like me stagger. Her scream and expression mixed with fear. It was clear it was a strong rejection. I felt deeply hurt, thinking Emily must hate me now, and stared at the empty hallway, feeling devastated. From then on, I made sure not to approach Emily carelessly. I didn't want to scare her again, and if she rejected me again, I feared I wouldn't be able to recover. As time passed under the shadow of Aaron's tyranny and my growing despondency, one by one, people started quitting, leaving behind only yes men around Aaron. By that time, There was no one left in the department who would confront Aaron directly, and everyone was saying, "I just want to quit." Emily's expressions grew darker each day. Around that time, I noticed her desk had become unusually tidy. Her cute pens and sticky notes were gone, and I thought she might be considering quitting as well. Seeing her reminded me of all those who had left, and I felt a deep sadness as I looked around the increasingly empty department. A month later, President Johnson himself organized a company retreat to boost morale, following Aaron's suggestion. It turned into a hot spring trip with the absurd rule that all unmarried female employees had to attend. Officially, it was to be considerate of married employees' family responsibilities, but everyone knew it was just an excuse for Aaron's ulterior motives. In our department, there were only 2 unmarried women, Emily and another woman named Catherine, who was currently on family leave. So, it was effectively only Emily who was required to attend. I couldn't forget Aaron's leering face and Emily's dark expression when the trip was announced. During the trip, everyone had to cater to Aaron's whims, making us question the purpose of the retreat. After a day of exhausting sightseeing, we moved on to the evening banquet. While Aaron and his cronies were getting rowdy, a few of us who disapproved of him hatched a plan. Our goal was to get Aaron drunk and ensure some peaceful time until morning. We exchanged glances and took our positions. As the banquet began, the already cheerful Aaron started bothering Emily. Emily calmly deflected his advances, but he persisted. I decided to intervene by offering him a drink. "Aaron, this is a local specialty sake. Here, have some." Plastering a smile on my face, I poured the locally famous sake into Aaron's cup, which the hostess had said was once presented to the local lord. The fragrant aroma caught Aaron's attention, and he took a sip. "This is good. For once, you brought something decent. Thank you." I smiled politely while refilling Aaron's cup with sake. Then, another colleague chimed in. "This is a great appetizer to go with the sake." We continued to offer Aaron drinks, and as he got drunker, he started boasting, "I'm the next president," and getting rowdier with his sycophants. We had been forced to drink with Aaron for the past 6 months and knew we couldn't handle alcohol well. We would soon fall asleep, just as planned. After a while, Aaron started snoring loudly on the tatami mat in the banquet hall. My colleagues and I quietly smirked, thinking, we did it. Even his sycophants looked relieved. It seemed that even the yes-men Aaron had gathered didn't like him. Watching his blissfully unaware sleeping face, I felt a twinge of pity. But given his usual behavior, he didn't deserve any sympathy. We decided to leave him be and enjoy the banquet. I was having a great time with my colleagues for the first time in a while, but when I looked around, I noticed Emily was missing. Maybe she's resting in her room now that she's free from Aaron. I was hoping that Emily could find some peace of mind during this trip, even if only for a little while. Her expression had been so downcast when this company retreat was announced. Remembering that moment, I felt my heart grow heavy like lead. To change my mood, I told my drinking colleagues I'm going to the bath and left the banquet. Thanks to the troublesome presents being passed out drunk, everyone was enjoying themselves and didn't even notice when I left. They continued to drink merrily. The hostess had mentioned upon our arrival that this inn has an open-air bath called a hidden hot spring. Since I'm not a heavy drinker and had barely touched any alcohol at the party, I decided to fully enjoy the hot spring. With a light step, I headed toward the changing room. It was at that moment I saw someone collapsed in front of the dressing room. "Are you okay?" I hurried over and lifted the person up. It was only then that I realized the person was Emily. She looked different without her glasses and in her yukata, which is why I didn't recognize her immediately. Her skin and face were flushed, and she felt hot to the touch. "Emily," I called. She responded faintly, which reassured me she must have gotten overheated. Emily, leaning weakly against me, looked so vulnerable that inappropriate thoughts crept into my mind. I shook my head to clear those thoughts. Get a grip, idiot. What are you thinking about a woman who's unwell? Emily shifted and nestled her face into my chest. The sweet scent of her hair made my heart race, and I started feeling dizzy. At that moment, I heard voices from the men's bath, likely from a group of male guests. A cold sake after a bath is the best. Yeah, but you're always drinking, aren't you, Jack? That voice snapped me back to reality, and I panicked when I saw Emily's appearance. Whether it was from falling over or putting it on absent-mindedly, her yukata had come loose, revealing her chest and thighs to a dangerously precarious level. Not wanting anyone else to see her like this, I apologized. I'm sorry, Emily, and carefully adjusted her yukata, avoiding any improper contact. I picked up her glasses from the floor and carried her on my back to my room. I laid her on the futon and placed a cool towel on her face and legs, using a cold water bottle from the fridge to help her recover. After about 30 minutes, the redness in Emily's face subsided and her expression softened. Relieved, I watched as Emily slowly opened her eyes. Still groggy, she blinked at the ceiling. Emily, how are you feeling? I asked cautiously. She looked at me and stared at my face for a few seconds before her expression turned to one of shock. Ah, she screamed. Wait, Emily, calm down. I called out to her, but Emily, in a panic, bombarded me with questions. I was supposed to be in the bath. Why am I in this room? Did you bring me here? Did you see me naked? No, I didn't see you. Did you? Didn't you? You're the worst. I misjudged you, John. Even though I had said words of denial, I was somehow misunderstood. Even if it was a misunderstanding, being called the worst by the person I care about was emotionally tough. Desperate to clear up the misunderstanding, I tried to explain, but Emily ignored me and picked up a pillow, ready to throw it. No, it's not like that. Please listen to me. I inadvertently raised my voice, wanting her to listen. Emily, startled, stopped. Seizing the opportunity, I hurriedly explained and justified myself. Please, just let me say this. I didn't do anything inappropriate to you. Your yukata was disheveled, so I fixed it, but I was very careful not to touch your skin. If that still made you uncomfortable, I'm sorry. I apologize. After apologizing, I explained everything that had happened since I found her outside the changing room. As Emily listened to my explanation, she looked at the nearby water bottles and wet towels, then lowered her head. You helped me, John, and I jumped to conclusions and panicked. I'm sorry. No, it's my fault for not thinking it through. It's only natural that you'd think the worst, given the situation. I should have been more considerate. I bowed my head as well. No, it's my fault. It's embarrassing to get heat stroke at my age, Emily said with an embarrassed smile. Perhaps it was because of her yukata and the absence of her glasses, but her atmosphere and smile were different from what I was used to at work, and it made my heart skip a beat. So, Emily, are you feeling better now? Yes, thanks to you, John. Thank you. I'm glad. When I saw you collapse, I thought my heart would stop. You were that worried about me. Ah, well, right. You need to stay hydrated. I'll get you something to drink. Feeling that my emotions were slipping into my words due to the nervousness and excitement of being alone with Emily, I decided to step away under the pretext of getting a drink to calm myself. When I returned with a bottle of water and handed it to Emily, she smiled and said, "Thank you." As I admired her smile, I noticed her cheeks were still slightly red. "Emily, are you still feeling hot?" "Why?" "Well, your ears and cheeks are still a bit red. I'll open the window a bit." "Oh, that's—" Her words were drowned out by the sound of the window opening, letting in a cool breeze. "Let me know if it gets too cold. It's not good to chill your body too much." "Thank you." I spoke to her and then sat at a respectful distance. Emily gazed at me intently. Emily, is something wrong? No, nothing, John. Really, thank you. Her repeated gratitude made me realize how considerate she was. We made small talk, but eventually the conversation died down and silence filled the room. Unable to think of anything to say and noticing Emily still looked a bit unwell, I saw her staring at the bottle in her hand. Just as I wondered what to do, there was a knock on the door, followed by a cheerful voice. Hey, John, are you back from the bath? The banquet's over, but we're not done drinking. Come join us in my room. It seemed my colleagues had come to get me. It was a welcome distraction from the awkwardness. I'm going to join them. Please take your time and go back to your room whenever you feel up to it. You don't need to move anything. Just take it easy. Wait. Watch out. As Emily tried to stand and stop me, she felt dizzy and started to fall forward. I caught her just in time. Emily, who had collapsed into my chest, raised her head, and our eyes met. The unexpected closeness made my heart race, but seeing her eyes glisten with tears made me hold my breath. Please don't leave, she whispered weakly, looking down. Seeing her shoulders tremble slightly, I couldn't help but tighten my grip around her. John, I heard a noise. Are you okay? A concerned voice called from the other side of the door. I'm fine. Just tripped and almost fell. I think I'm more tired than I thought, so I'm going to rest now. While supporting Emily, I responded to my colleagues, declining their invitation. All right, take it easy. We did have a long day. Rest up. See you tomorrow. I heard the sound of footsteps as they walked away. Once the footsteps were completely out of earshot, I called out to Emily. Are you okay? Let's sit down for now. Watch your step. Supporting her unsteady frame, I gently guided her to a soft cushion. Her face looked a bit pale. I'm sorry for holding you back, John. Seeing her so different from her usual cool demeanor, I hesitated before speaking. Did something happen? Does it have to do with why you've looked so down recently? Emily's head snapped up at my words. Her expression shifted from one of surprise to one that looked like she was about to cry. John, you noticed. I've been followed by someone. What? You mean? I think I'm being stalked. Emily began to speak slowly. About half a year ago, I started feeling like someone was following me, and things like stationery from my desk would go missing. They were gifts from my sister that I cherish, but I couldn't find them anywhere for half a year. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but the feeling kept growing. But I couldn't talk to anyone about it. I was stunned by Emily's words. I had never known anyone personally affected by stalking, but I'd seen it on the news and TV shows. People being followed at night, their homes being broken into, sometimes even losing their lives. Hearing about it from someone close made my heart ache, thinking of her enduring such fear alone for so long. Have you talked to the police? I don't have any solid evidence, so I haven't gone yet. I might just be imagining things. I'm sorry I didn't notice anything, John. You've always been there for me since I was in UE, but I didn't realize you were suffering. I clenched my fists in frustration, the frustration of not noticing the changes despite being so close, and the anger toward the person tormenting Emily mixed and surged through me. It's not your fault, John. Working hard with you and everyone helped me forget the bad things, she said, smiling. Her kindness, even while she was suffering the most, made my chest tighten with sorrow. Instead of the usual joy, I've always loved hot springs, so I was a bit excited about this trip. I thought I could forget about the stalker for a while. She laughed softly, perhaps at a memory. When I go to hot springs with my family, I have to take care of my little sister, so I never get to relax. You have a sister. Yes. I haven't mentioned it before, have I? I also have brothers, but there's quite an age gap. They're quite a handful for the whole family. Adorable, though. Her smile was warm and kind, reflecting her love for her family. That's why I ended up taking a long bath. It's funny that I stayed in until I almost passed out. But I'm sorry for causing you trouble, John. Not at all. It wasn't any trouble. I'm actually happy that she got a bit overheated, because it means I get to see her smile and talk with her like this. Of course, I'm worried about the stalking, but knowing why Emily's been so down recently makes me feel relieved. John, thank you so much for today, and I'm sorry for the way I reacted before. You were just trying to help, but I overreacted because I was so scared. Her words reminded me of a few months ago when I had thought she hated me, which made me feel down. But given her situation, it made sense that she would be afraid of being touched by a man. Now, I understood why she had reacted so strongly. No, it's okay. I'm just glad you weren't hurt, both then and now. I smiled, hoping to reassure her. Emily looked at me and softly said, "You're not like the stalker, John. You're so kind." Her eyes wavered slightly, and I had the urge to hold her close, but I suppressed it. I must not scare Emily any further, as she already harbors a fear of men. As I tried to calm myself, I glanced at the clock on the wall. It was past 10 p.m. "I'm sorry, it's already quite late. You should get some rest. I'll walk you back to your room." Saying that, I tried to stand up, but Emily didn't move. "Emily? I know it's a strange request, but can I stay here tonight?" "What?" Her unexpected request left me frozen halfway through standing up. Looking up at me, she asked again, "Is it okay?" Her innocent expression made my heart race. No, it's not bad, I thought. But inside, part of me was jumping for joy at the idea of spending more time with her, while another part warned that it might not be appropriate. With my heart pounding, the part that wanted to be with Emily won, and I awkwardly prepared another Fuden at a respectable distance. Normally, this would be easy, but my mind and heart were in overdrive, making the task seem complicated. If you want more space between us, just let me know, and I swear I won't do anything weird. You can even tie my hands and feet if you want. I couldn't even look at her as I said this, but I heard a soft laugh. Looking up, I saw Emily laughing. "I'm sorry. You looked so funny, John. But it's okay. I trust you. Thank you." Her words made me push down any inappropriate thoughts. After making sure she was settled in her Fuden, I turned off the lights. "Good night." "Good night, John." Hearing Emily's breathing in the darkness made my heart race, and I tightly closed my eyes, trying to dispel any impure thoughts. Don't think about anything. Just sleep. Trying not to think about it only made my senses more acute. Just as I considered counting sheep to fall asleep, I felt the futon move slightly. Someone was there, and a trembling hand touched my back. After a moment's hesitation, I slowly turned to see Emily's anxious face in the dim light. Is it okay if I touch you a little?" I asked for confirmation, just to be sure. Emily nodded. Seeing that, I gently put my arm around her back. Then, just before touching her, I gently patted her back, saying, "Excuse me. When I was little, whenever I had a scary dream and couldn't sleep, I would sneak into my grandma's bed, and she would pat my back like this." "Your grandma? So you had such a cute childhood too." "Right? Well, yeah. Thank you. I feel somehow at ease when I'm with you." Emily's words made my heart skip a beat. Isn't this enough? Nice atmosphere, and Emily's words, they felt like. Is that so? I feel the same way. It reminds me of my childhood. Max, my dog at home, he would sneak into my bed. We often slept together. Emily giggled as she said this. Like the family dog? I couldn't help but feel I might not be entirely out of the romantic running. But for now, I told myself that helping Emily feel at ease was what mattered most. As I continued to gently pat her back, I heard Emily's peaceful breathing as she fell asleep. "Good night, Emily." Of course, there was no reply. Even after confirming she had fallen into a deep sleep, I kept gently patting her back. The next morning, I knew it was morning by the sunlight streaming in and the birds chirping outside. Opening my eyes from the same position as last night, I saw Emily's beautiful sleeping face right in front of me. Honestly, I wasn't composed enough to sleep well with her so close. I was too excited to sleep at all, despite being sleep-deprived. Looking at Emily's serene sleeping face, I strongly felt I wanted to protect this person. I only have average strength and stamina, but I wanted to do whatever I could for her. As I was thinking this and looking at Emily's sleeping face, her eyes opened. Looking into her focused eyes, I greeted her. "Good morning, Emily." Good morning." Still groggy, she echoed my greeting like a parrot. But in the next moment, her eyes popped wide open. Then she sprang up with great force. "John, that is, I'm so sorry about last night." "It's all right, really. More importantly, did you sleep well?" Emily's face turned bright red to her ears. "Yes, I slept very well." Her flustered response and the sight of her putting on her glasses while speaking to me, her junior, was so cute that I couldn't help but smile. I then conveyed to her what I had decided in my heart. "Emily, please don't carry everything by yourself anymore. I'll do whatever I can to help, so please rely on me." Emily looked up at my words. I could see tears welling up in her eyes. "Thank you, John," Emily said, wiping her tears and showing a smile. "Should I walk you to your room? I'm still worried about you after yesterday. I feel bad asking you to go that far, and I had a good rest, so I'll be fine." With that, Emily stood up smoothly. I also stood up. "I'm glad I could talk to you, John. I feel bad relying on my junior, but I hope I can consult with you again. Thank you so much. See you later." With a smile and a wave, Emily left the room. As I listened to the sound of the door closing, I stood there for a while, recalling the dreamlike time of last night. Still in a dreamy state, the birds chirping outside brought me back to reality. Just as I was about to get ready for a walk outside, it happened. I thought I heard a voice from a bit of a distance. The moment I heard that voice, I had a bad feeling and dashed out of the room, running at full speed towards the source of the voice. I stopped around the corner of the hallway and saw two figures arguing. "Come on, just a little. Let go of me." My bad feeling turned out to be right. There stood Emily and Aaron. Aaron was grabbing Emily's arm as she struggled, though her tone was strong. Emily's face was pale. "Let go of Emily." I shouted as I pried Aaron's hand off Emily's arm. Perhaps shocked by my sudden appearance, Aaron's hand easily released Emily. "John," a weak voice escaped from Emily, whom I was shielding behind me. Hearing that voice, anger surged through my body. "John, what are you doing here?" Aaron sneered. "What are you doing forcing yourself on a woman who's clearly saying no? You're the lowest of the low." I had been angry with Aaron's behavior before, but never had I wanted to punch him in the face as much as I did now. "John, are you trying to play the knight in shining armor? Don't make me laugh. I'm the son of President Johnson, you know." From behind me, Emily's voice reached my ears as I faced off against the sneering Aaron, the stalker. "It was him," she said, extending her hand towards me. In her trembling hand was a pen with a bare charm that had been on Emily's desk. I looked from the pen to Aaron's face. Aaron was smirking. He stole my personal items from my desk and followed me home. All of it. It was Aaron, Emily said. Hearing that, I felt my head was about to boil over. So this guy was the one tormenting Emily. I glared sharply at Aaron, condemning him. Being the president's son doesn't give you the right to commit crimes. Do you have any idea how much suffering Emily has been through because of you? But Aaron remained arrogantly unrepentant. What's wrong with managing Emily's belongings and actions? Besides, I arranged this trip, asking my father to make it happen so that shy Emily could come out of her shell. He probably blabbered about his stalking behavior as if it were for Emily's benefit. That's all your delusion. In reality, Emily is terrified of your actions. Stop stalking her immediately. What? Stalking? What are you talking about? Everything I've done has been proof of my love for Emily. Right, Emily? With a self-absorbed expression, Aaron spoke to Emily. In response, Emily stepped forward to stand beside me. Seeing her determined look despite her trembling hands, I was surprised, but she nodded at me resolutely. I have never had any special feelings for you, Aaron. Your actions have been nothing but a nuisance. Please never do them again. If you do anything more, I will report it to the proper authorities. Facing the culprit, Emily's poised and firm stance was just like her usual self. Aaron's face turned red as he finally realized his misunderstanding. Don't mess with me, you two. Making a fool out of me. Do you know what happens if you go against the president's son? I'll get you both fired. I'd heard this line countless times before. Whenever something didn't go his way, he would threaten with demotion or firing. I was fed up with it. That's fine by me. John, what are you saying? It's enough. If we continue working under someone like him, we'll end up hating the job we used to love so much. It's because of you that I came to love this job, John. Emily looked surprised at my words, and I smiled at her. Emily looked like she wanted to say something, but Aaron interrupted with a triumphant look on his face. You said it. There's no taking it back now. You'll regret it later. I won't regret it. In fact, it's a relief to not have to see your face anymore. Well, fine. You can act tough all you want. Our company won't feel a thing losing someone like you. Satisfied with getting my resignation, Aaron seemed to have forgotten about pestering Emily, laughed loudly, and walked away. Watching Aaron's arrogant retreat, I let out a deep breath. John, were you serious just now? Emily asked in a trembling voice. When I looked at her, the determined expression she had earlier was gone, replaced by a sad and anxious look in her eyes. It's not too late. I can go and ask Aaron to cancel your resignation. Emily, it's okay. I touched her shoulder to stop her from running off. When our eyes met, a single tear fell from her eye. I can't bear the thought of you quitting because of me. Emily started to cry. For a moment, I hesitated, but then I gently pulled her into an embrace. It's not your fault, Emily. It's my decision. I couldn't forgive Aaron's behavior. With Emily crying into my chest, I confessed the feelings I had been holding back. I've always liked you, Emily. That's why I couldn't stand seeing you in pain. I would have regretted it more if I had let Aaron's despicable actions slide. I'm glad I could protect you like this. Emily slowly lifted her face. Her wet eyes met mine. John, until now I've always seen you as a cute junior, but after spending the night together and hearing you say I could rely on you, I realized my own feelings. I feel comfortable with you. I don't have to put on a facade in front of you. I feel so at ease. Emily rested her cheek against my chest. I love you too, John. Her words resonated through my body and heart. Hearing the word love from Emily made my heart beat loudly. I can hear your heartbeat, John. Emily, with you by my side, I can do my best. So please stay with me from now on. Okay. Emily's blushing face showed a girlish smile. It was the most beautiful smile I had ever seen on her. The day after we returned from the trip, I headed to Aaron's desk with my resignation letter. When Aaron saw me, he smirked. John, what do you want? As I said yesterday, I'm quitting this company. When I placed the envelope on his desk, Aaron laughed loudly again. A resignation letter? Just remember, don't come crying to me when you're struggling. Who's going to be crying? What are you talking about? Obviously, it'll be you. He glared at me, annoyed by my calm demeanor. Aaron, I'm quitting too, and so am I. In the next moment, voices started to rise from behind me. While Aaron was still confused, envelopes marked with resignation letters were placed one after another on his desk. Finally, a beautifully written resignation letter was placed in front of him. "I'm resigning as well." It was Emily who placed it. Behind us stood more than half of our department. Everyone here had submitted their resignation letters, just like me. Aaron, stunned by the sudden turn of events, turned pale as he faced the overwhelming number of resignation letters. "You seemed worried about my future, Aaron, but rest assured, we decided to leave this company and start a new one together." Everyone nodded in agreement. Next to me, Emily smiled. After declaring my resignation to Aaron yesterday, Emily and I discussed leaving the company and starting a new one together. I knew that just my resignation wouldn't stop Aaron's stalking, so for her safety, I urged Emily to resign as well. At first, Emily was reluctant to quit. I had heard she had a younger sister, but it turned out she was the eldest of 5 siblings and, along with her father, was supporting the household due to her mother's poor health. That's why, no matter how hard it was, I couldn't quit my job. Hearing her circumstances, I felt a painful tightness in my chest. Thinking of how she had been fighting the fear of Aaron stalking while suppressing her own feelings for the sake of her family nearly brought tears to my eyes. I squeezed Emily's hand tightly and said, "You don't have to endure it anymore. I'm here with you." Emily smiled, relieved by my words. Seeing that smile, I made a vow to myself once again. I will protect this person no matter what. With our resolve to leave the company firm, we went around explaining the situation to our colleagues who had been there since before Aaron's transfer. Most of them, after hearing our story, offered to work with us, leading to today's mass resignation. Leaving a dumbfounded Aaron behind, we headed to the president's office. We intended to inform President Johnson, Aaron's father and the company president, about Aaron's past behavior, his stalking of Emily, and any other offenses, and to demand an investigation and proper punishment. Though surprised by our sudden visit, President Johnson listened intently to our account. After hearing our story, he bowed deeply and apologized. His face had turned pale, and he looked visibly more haggard. Within a short period, it must have been a shocking report for him. As the company president, he promised to conduct a thorough investigation and to impose appropriate penalties on Aaron, as well as on himself. Later, we established our new company and threw ourselves into our work. The busy days flew by as we grew the company, making decisions collectively and sharing ideas actively, feeling a different kind of fulfillment than before. I realized I really do love this job. One day, we received a phone call at the office. The caller was President Johnson. He informed us that the investigation into Aaron had been completed, and Aaron had admitted to his crimes. President Johnson had personally contacted the police. Aaron was, of course, dismissed and would be monitored henceforth. His father decided not to sever ties, but to focus on Aaron's rehabilitation. The company had suffered from the loss of us employees, leading to deteriorated relationships with clients and declining performance. Even though President Johnson personally requested, "Please come back," none of us nodded in agreement. Instead, we promised to assist by forming a business partnership, helping the company rebuild trust. I cannot go back, but I believe we took the best possible action to repay the company for the many years we worked there. This arrangement benefited both companies, and slowly but surely, President Johnson's company began mending its client relationships while we secured new contracts, further boosting our growth. Everyone who once felt burdened by work now worked with smiles on their faces. I was one of them. And John, about the new contract, seeing her efficiently handling work, I couldn't help but smile. "We're at work now. Stop grinning." Emily, now my partner, scolded me sharply. Sorry, but in our private office, I gently hugged Emily tenderly, as if handling something fragile. I just thought, how happy I am to see you like this. Oh, come on. Emily laughed softly, exasperated by my words. Are you happy too? Emily, of course, Her immediate answer made me hold her a little tighter. Emily relaxed from work mode, smiling peacefully in my arms. Her smile was so gentle and calm. It was the most special smile, one she showed only to me. I'm an ordinary guy with no wealth, strength, or special talents. I used to be too scared to stand up to those in power. But that day, I mustered the courage to protect what mattered most to me. Thanks to that, I haven't lost what is most important. I want to continue protecting her, the one who gives me so much courage and strength. For Emily's smile, I believe I can do anything.